So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Chris Lancaster, and I am a graduating senior, only 15 days to graduation, but who's actually counting? Definitely not me. And tonight I'm going to be talking about why I think that campus party culture and its implications need to be talked about more candidly. So that's me again. A little bit of background too. I've been here almost 4 years, and I'm studying economics and French, and I'm really excited to share a little bit of my experiences with you. So I'm going to give a little bit of a disclaimer. So what I'm talking about is going to be mostly my own experiences, and I'm hoping that everyone can glean some sort of meaning or relatable tidbits from these and can take that into their own life and basically apply it in some way. And I am not alcohol EDU, so I'm going to be talking tonight about some pretty interesting, very explicit experiences that I've gone through over the last year especially. And I'm not telling anyone that what you're doing is wrong. I'm not condescending. This is to start a conversation that I think that a lot of people are not having that we should be having. So going forward, so why am I here though exactly? So let's take a little bit of a time travel back to January 9th. So I was in Tampa and I went to the national championship game. And I know I see a few people in the crowd that were also there. For those of you that don't know, there was a really cool thing before the game called the Taco Bell student section, basically, where Taco Bell provided free tacos and beer all afternoon leading up to the game to students from Alabama and Clemson that were of age. And as someone who likes to get his money's worth in situations, I am an economics major. I need to make sure that I'm putting my time to the best use. I thought, okay, this is my best chance to drink as much as I can because it's free and I'm not going to get to do this otherwise. So fast forward a little bit, we get to when the game starts, and this is really the last thing I remember that happened with this game. And if you can look a little bit more closely, this is Alabama running onto the field before the game started. So it's great that I can laugh about this now. At the time, I didn't remember the first 3 quarters of the game. I spent $550 on my ticket to go to this game. I drove 10 hours to get down there. I got a speeding ticket on the trip too, so add that charge in there too. And this was a very expensive trip that I don't remember the culminating moment of. So this brings me to something that I think is very important that we need to talk about in more of a broad concept. The University of Alabama, as a lot of people, I think maybe your friends probably talk to you about it. I know I have friends from home that talk about this all the time. Alabama has this really awful stereotype sometimes of being construed as a party school. And as someone who works with recruiting, I get parents and students asking all the time about this question. And honestly, it wasn't until about a year ago that I could have answered this question really honestly. I think we do have a problem as a party school, and it's not that partying in itself is bad. It's that the way that we go about this is bad. So the way that we have all sorts of events constantly having alcohol involved with them, anytime we're doing something social, we feel like there has to be alcohol involved. And as someone who actually didn't drink before they turned 21, I was kind of late to the party. A lot of students in college, people will stereotypically think, oh, you come in your freshman year and you haven't, really experienced things before and you go too hard your freshman year and then you kind of mellow out. Well, I didn't do anything my first couple of years and I went crazy when I turned 21 about a year ago. And I'm going to give you a really good example of some of the things that go into why this probably happened and things that I think we need to talk about that we're not talking about. So the biggest thing I think that kind of feeds the culture that we have here is social media in general, but especially Instagram. So how many of you in the room have an Instagram? Mostly everyone. Okay, so at the University of Alabama, it feels like everyone has an Instagram and everything you put online is going to be seen by all your friends and everyone, and you want to make sure that you're crafting the right image, blah, blah, blah. So when I turned 21, I had never gotten really invited to things my first couple years of college that were social because people thought, oh, he doesn't drink, he doesn't want to be around it, that sort of thing. So when I turned 21, I was like, okay, I have to start making people think that I'm, a fun person to be around and, I'm doing all these really cool things. So I pretty much got to where I posted a picture every single time I was out. And this is an example from December, but to give you another example, back in the spring after I turned 21 last year, I had kids that I went to high school with that go to school all over the country send me a message on Facebook or would talk to me when I was home for the summer and say, hey, like it really looks like you're having a really good time at college. And that's not really the context that you want that kind of statement to be said to you in. And so fast forward, let's just say that I had a lot of fun my last couple months of last spring, leading all the way through the fall. I went to every single football game last year, and as a lot of people assume, you know, alcohol does usually go with football, especially here, and we have so many people that think that they have to get their money's worth before they go to the game. And what happens so often is that you don't even make it to the game. So come to the end of the semester last year in December, and I finished what I thought was the roughest class of college. And it was Wine Wednesday during finals week, and I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta go, you know, celebrate this achievement. And so I posted this picture on Instagram on the left at about 9:30. These two bottles were both gone within half an hour after posting that picture, and no one helped me with it. So go to this picture on the left, or on your right here. This picture was taken about 3 hours later. I don't remember this photo being taken. It's in black and white because I looked like I was really, really intoxicated, and I look a lot less intoxicated in black and white. And the next day I posted this picture as, hey, one of us in this picture had a little too much fun last night. But you know, that's kind of a playful way that we sometimes say things to make it appear like everything's okay, when in actuality, I don't remember getting home, and I woke up in my bed at 11 o'clock and had no idea how I got there. Thankfully, I got home. But this leads into kind of what social media really spurs within all of us, FOMO. So I know a lot of you, first of all, for those of you that don't know what FOMO stands for, it's fear of missing out. I actually don't think I knew what this word meant until about a year ago, and when I learned what this word was, it changed my life because I was like, oh my gosh, this is like my life, basically. So at the kind of foundation of all this is the fact that with this fear of missing out concept, a lot of times, for me, in my experience, I would go out because I thought that other people were going to be out, and I didn't want to miss out on who I would see when they were out. Or I wanted to be able to post that picture when I was out to at least show people that I'm a cool person, and I wanted to be able to socialize and be seen because that meant that I was apparently doing good things with my college experience. And so at the foundation of it, though, people don't really think about you that often. I know that maybe that's not trying to be an insult, that's just people are concerned with themselves, and you're going about your life on a day-to-day basis. And when you see that photo that someone posted on Instagram, if you look at it for more than a few seconds and like it, you're not going to think about it for a few more seconds usually after that. And that's something that a lot of times, for me, I told myself, oh my gosh, you know, this is what I put all my stock in. I need to make sure that people are seeing exactly what they need to see on a daily basis, and I'm always going to be at the front of people's minds. Well, you're not always going to be at the front of someone else's mind unless you're married to them, or maybe not even in that case. And, you know, just, it's one of those things that it's very much a negative feedback loop that just perpetuates this really bad way of thinking. And so I have finally realized that when I go out, I don't need to post about it every time. You can still go out a few nights a week, don't even have to drink, and you don't post anything about it, and no one knows you were out if they didn't see you, and they don't think that you're some crazy raging party animal that has a problem. So it's kind of funny how that works. So the other thing too, I think that's a root issue at a lot of this is pre-gaming. So a lot of people like to throw around the quote that, you know, you can't be an alcoholic in college. And everybody, you know, a lot of people say that, and it's really funny, but honestly, alcoholism is not the big problem in college. It's binge drinking, and there's a difference. And binge drinking is looking at when you drink 3 to 4 drinks in a very short period of time, and this usually happens with pre-gaming. You know, you're about to go out to the bar, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to spend money when I'm out because that would be beside the point if there's all this alcohol in front of me right here. I'm just going to drink everything that I can right now. And then you sometimes don't make it out to the bar, or you get out to the bar, I'm speaking about myself here, and you have no way to get home, and you end up in your bed and don't remember how you got there. And this is something that if you go out and you're not pre-gaming before you go out, you're really easily able to track how much you're drinking, because unless your mom and dad pay for a really expensive credit card every month, you're having to basically pay for everything you're drinking, and that's going to keep you from drinking more. And the other thing too, this goes back to what I talked about, but the getting your money's worth concept. This is probably, someone else has probably come up with this, but I think that a lot of times, I have been to a couple events here at Alabama where you go to a bar and there's an open tab, or you are at some party where there's just an open source of alcohol. And because I'm a college student, I don't have a lot of money, and I want to make sure that I'm getting the most out of this experience, I'm going to drink everything I can in that moment because I'm not going to get to tomorrow. Well, the truth is, it's going to be there. There's going to be alcohol. Not all alcohol is just going to go, off from this earth. And so think about that next time when you think, maybe I'm the only one to think this, but I hope someone can glean something out of this, that honestly, it's going to be okay. You don't need to stuff your mouth with as much alcohol as you can because it's still going to be there. So this brings me to kind of going forward. So I'm going to move into Atlanta in the fall and starting a full-time job. And I have a lot of friends that are all over the country right now who are in their last semester of college and have this mindset of, as typically last semester of senior year, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to take advantage of this and I'm never going to have this moment again. I'm going to go out 5 nights a week. I'm going to, see everybody I can, this, that, and the other. Well, when you start a full-time job, I would love to meet someone that can go out 5 nights a week and still get up and go to work at 7 or 8 o'clock every morning, because that's not sustainable. And so that leads me into the mental health aspect of all of this and emotional health. So I like to talk a lot about the emotional health aspect of this. When you're very intoxicated, when I'm very intoxicated, I have a lot of times had situations where maybe you say something to someone about someone else that you shouldn't have said. And maybe that thing that you said to someone else gets back to that person that you were talking about because everybody has some alcohol in them and they're a little bit loose-lipped, and that's kind of the culture that we seem to be with. When you are out with a bunch of people and you see someone walk into a bar, your first reaction is usually to think or say something about that person that you know or maybe even don't know at the bar that you see. And this, at the very lowest level, is really, really going to hurt your relationships. I had a situation last spring where I said something that I shouldn't have to someone out, and he turned around and told the person that I said that exact thing to that person, and I'm no longer their friend. And that is something that can be easily avoided if we watch what we're consuming and we're a little bit more smart about it. And the other thing too, the whole emotional health thing, one last thing with that is, honestly, it's not fun to wake up in the morning after you've had a night out and you don't remember how you got home and you feel like crap. That's not fun. And it's hard to go about your regular everyday life when that's the case. So at the foundational level of all this is just think a little bit more about what you are doing when you're out and what you are thinking about you've got to do the next day. And we need to start talking about this more. So the biggest point of all this is to look at when we go out and we do something stupid. A lot of times, I, for one, have been, your friend will tell you, my friends will tell me, hey Chris, that was so funny, that thing you did last night when you were really, really drunk. And we like to glorify these things. I know I've said it to someone else, and I've been told it a lot of times. And every time we do that, it is perpetuating this behavior to continue because you are getting some sort of positive feedback for this thing you did. And so if we can stop doing that, and if we can have a conversation, just like I'm having with you, I like to think of my life as a little tiny bit of a case study the last year about what not to do with alcohol. And a lot of times, it wasn't until probably last semester that I even had a conversation with someone about this. And it's not saying, oh my gosh, you just need to quit drinking altogether. For some people, maybe that's the solution. For me, that was the solution because I'm an addictive person and I thought that I needed it 100, but I had to pull it down to 0 for me to be better at it. But if we can just have a conversation about the consequences and implications of what we do when we're out, maybe it'll make all of our lives a little bit healthier. So I'm so glad everyone came out tonight. Thank you guys so much for listening to me talk about something that's quite interesting, that I think is very interesting, and I'm happy to hand it over to the next performer. Thank you guys.